one of the biggest obstacles, I guess. And I look back and I can tell you that at the moment I wasn't very happy. I wanted to get into manufacturing. I went to a theater and they gave you those burritos that were wrapped in plastic, and they would put them in the oven or the microwave, and then you would eat them while you're in the theater. Well, I was in there. I said, "Wow, man, I want this. It's okay, because that's what you're used to. You have no other benchmark of how good food can be." A lot of theaters wanted to increase their sales, and the way to do that was be able to offer a better meal, because you went to the theater, all it was hot dogs, nachos, and those frozen burritos. And I said, "Wow, I can do better than that. What if I give them a restaurant-style burrito? What if I'm able to give them a wet burrito?" So I went out, invested in this modified atmosphere packaging machine. So what happens is, as the product goes into the machine, it pulls the air out, because the air is the oxygen is what causes it to oxidize and go bad. So it'll give you an extra shelf life. I went out, researched it, bought that machine. I bought this Hobart food dicer to cut all my vegetables. I invested all this money, and we were in negotiations with AMC. We went and pitched to them. We can give you a restaurant-style burrito that will help you, increase your revenues by people coming in and actually eating. Instead of eating before or after the movie, they're going to eat during the movie. You get more people in there. That's how I pitched them, and I sold them on that. And I took them some samples. They loved it. They said, "Okay, we're going to try it. We're going to try it in the LA area." They gave me certain stores. They wanted to try it out. It was 20,000 burritos. I remember going to my food vendor over, his name was Marshall. And I told Marshall, I need some pork, because it was made out of pork, X amount of pounds. I says, "I need 30 days. He looked at me, he says, and I go, "Well, maybe 45, because after, they're supposed to pay you in 30, but nobody ever does." And I can attest to that, because I used to do the same thing. Your bill's due in 30 days, you say in 45. Sometimes they just push it aside. So I asked him, he goes, "No, bro, that's too much. That's too much." I go, "No, you can do it. Come on. We're getting this going." We had a relationship already for about maybe 10, 15 years. So we knew each other on a personal level. We'll see what we can do. So I went out, got the machine. I made my plant. It was USDA approved, to cook the food, package it, ship it out. Called the guy up. He says, "Hey, I'm ready. Okay, we're good. I called a camera guy. He comes out, takes pictures. He takes the pictures, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna put all these pictures on the wall at all the theaters, so people could look and say, wow, it looks good." This guy was probably one of the best food photographers at the time. I didn't tell him what it was for, but he took them. I got them. I said, "I print them," and then I mentioned, "You know what? I'm gonna put this in AMC theaters." The next day he comes out with his paper, shows me the copyright. He's telling me, after I paid for the film, I paid for the picture, paid for the session, paid for everything, that it was his work, it was his art. I'm like, "What do you mean it's your art?" He says, "For every picture you put up, you gotta pay me X amount per burrito." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" I says, "I didn't read the fine. You always gotta read that stuff." And he told me, he showed me it was basically a court case, and says that when someone takes a picture, I don't want to give you guys ideas. Don't. You can make sure you get some sign that they're sending it over to, or you buy the rights from them. And it was this big shit, and he had all the high points. I'm like, "What the heck?" I couldn't use his picture, so that was the first drawback. But I didn't use it because there's no way I was going to pay him X amount of dollars aside from what I had already paid him. And I tell people the story because this guy, it was interesting. You learn things from people. He put his price, whatever it was. I think back then it was, for one picture was like $3,000. It was $3,000 for the picture, and I still had to pay him a royalty for every burrito that I sold, because it was his artwork. I created the dish. I made the food. I plated it. All he did was took the picture. Anyways, it is what it is. He said he wanted X amount of dollars. I said, I can't use this picture. There's no way I'm going to use this picture. But when he gave me the bill, it said it was $3,000 at the bottom of the bill, and I tell people this, and he put this one phrase in there that I always repeat. I tell everybody. It says, "Long after price is forgotten, quality lives on." And I said, "Look at that guy." So I laughed. I was like, "Well, that's a good phrase there," and it makes sense. Long after price is forgotten, because the price will be forgotten, the quality lives on. And he had some great food photography, but he was smarter than I was at the time, because I wasn't seasoned yet, and he was able to run that by me, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess we're not using your picture." We didn't use this picture anyways. Fast forward, I go to AMC, 20,000 burritos, we're going to try it out. These are the stores that we're going to test them at. At the same time, I'm also doing samples for other, while I'm going to sell at AMC, I start selling to other small liquor stores. And when we're doing that, I'm calling the guy at AMC. I says, "Okay, we're ready. The day was getting closer. on the shipping date. So we're getting ready. I'm getting ready to ship. I start bringing all the stuff in, getting ready, and I'm waiting there. I have all this in storage. We're getting ready to cook the stuff, and I cook a small batch, and doesn't return my phone call. I call him up, doesn't return my phone call. I said, what's going on? We're getting closer to the date, and the guy hasn't called me back. He's not returning my phone calls at all. He's not calling me back. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I said to myself, what's going on here? So I went out, parked in front of the building where he works at, and I went and I was waiting there. I was there for 3 hours. It seemed like 10 hours. It was a few hours, but it just seemed like an eternity. Sitting there, and I'm looking over, making sure maybe I missed him. Maybe he went out that way. Maybe he went out this way. So I'm sitting there, and he finally comes out, and then comes out, and I go, hey, what's going on? I've been calling you. He says, we're not going to take your order anymore. We're going to postpone it or cancel it. And I'm like, well, why? What's going on? I just bought all this. I'm trying to explain. I bought all this equipment. I spent thousands of dollars on all this equipment. I'm ready to go, and that's all he said. And he wouldn't. It's like the guys, the politicians, or when they're asking him questions and they dodge the question and they just don't answer. What he did say was, "You'll thank me later." And I didn't understand. How am I going to thank you later? I just spent all this money, all this investment, all this stuff I did. He just walked away, got in his car, and left. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? I says, what am I gonna do? I invested all this money. I bought this modified atmosphere packaging machine. I think it was like, wow, it must have been like $100,000. I think it was, and I still have it there, sitting there. It was sitting there, and I'm thinking, how am I gonna pay this off? So turns out that a few weeks later, I see a ad in the paper or an article basically that they had to file for bankruptcy. I look back and I said, wow, if I lost X amount of dollars now, you would have to that would be exponential with the stuff I would have sent. They wouldn't have paid me. So you say, wow, all this happened. Well, that's the bad. What's the silver lining? The silver lining was that, one, it could have been worse, a whole lot worse. Two, I was able to build this facility for our future growth. We use that for our expansion of our restaurants. So it worked out. The kitchen was bigger, the refrigerators, it worked out. All the growth that we experienced for our family businesses, that's what we used. Had it not been for that AMC, I would have never did the expansion. And I probably would have lost a whole lot more. I think it took me like 5 years to pay off that machine. Every month, I think it was $1,100. Yeah, and every time I make that, man, and I had to pay it. So lesson learned was, something. There's always a silver lining. There's something good, there's a lesson to be learned or something. And I learned several lessons in that during that instant. One is the copyright. When they take pictures, every time somebody takes a picture, I make sure, I says, well, I'm gonna send you so much money, this is my material. And I'm gonna pay, and I make sure I put on there, all rights reserved on my check. So that's where I learned that. And then from the AMC, well, things sometimes aren't meant to be. And sometimes, I think that was, at the time, didn't seem like it, but it was probably one of the best things that happened. I wasn't ready for that type of work that was coming anyways. I don't think we would have been able to keep up with them. I was way over my head on that one. Stay tuned for more, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up with our Birria journey.